Hi, I'm Meredith McKeough. You're listening to a special edition of the Marketing News Canada podcast, filmed live on site at the 2025 SocialWest conference at the Calgary TELUS Convention Centre. This episode features a conversation with one of our amazing speakers from the event. Let's dive in. Neil Patel, the man who needs very little introduction. It's so nice to meet you. For those of you who aren't familiar, Neil Patel, you are a best-selling New York Times author. You were listed as one of the top 10 marketers with Forbes. You've worked with massive brands like Amazon, GM, Viacom on their strategy. And you are the co-founder of NP Digital, which is a global agency. So we are very excited to have you here with us today. Welcome to the podcast.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, absolutely. So Neil, this is probably one of the most interesting years in marketing in my career, potentially in your career as well. There have been so many changes, and I feel like you have a really strong background in search engine optimization marketing. I feel like the world of search has almost been flipped on its head this year with all of the different advancements in AI. So tell us, I know that there are kind of new rules, new principles for approaching search. What are you talking to people most about these days?
Yeah, so we look at search now as changed from just searching on platforms like Google to searching everywhere.
Yes.
If you look at look at the data, people use Google to search. They use these LLMs, and these LLMs make up roughly 20% of the traffic that Google's getting, roughly right now. They're extremely popular, and we look at SEO, search engine optimization, is changed to search everywhere optimization, where it doesn't matter if someone's using Instagram, TikTok, or Facebook, or LinkedIn, or YouTube, or even ChatGPT, or Perplexity, or Amazon. You got to optimize for all the platforms. And to give you a rough number, Google controls roughly 27% of the search market share. 13.7 billion searches a day. There's over 50 billion searches a day. Instagram has 6.5 billion searches a day. Even Amazon has 3.5 billion. The Apple App Store has around 500 million a day. ChatGPT is around 1 billion a day.
Wow. So that's a big shift, like you said, from thinking about search engine optimization as, getting your results at the top to showing up in search where it really matters. So what are some of the ways that you're seeing brands do that really well today?
So first is digital PR. If you can get your brand mentioned in a positive way at a higher frequency than your competition, or frequency, so if you're more often and if it's positive, you're much more likely to pull into LLMs. Being out for many, many years, winning awards, positive reviews, having good backlinks, making sure that you're doing the on-page SEO element so it's easier for them to crawl and scrape and understand what you're putting on your website. Up-to-date content is another huge one. They don't want to showcase things that are 4 or 5 years old versus things that are 3 months old.
So from a content perspective, what does that look like? Is that website content? Is that blog posts? Is that social media content?
All of it.
Whew.
It's a lot of work, but
Yeah.
they're crawling all of it and they're able to decipher, and they have data deals. Like Google has a data deal with TikTok. They have deals with Reddit. So they're not only gathering content from all these sources, but because of AI, they're better able to understand what that content is and what it means more than just a keyword. You no longer have to focus just on an individual keyword. They can understand like if I'm talking about food, and I'm talking about my animal and my canine. I'm not using the word dog here. My canine is named Rover. I'm making this up. And if I break down the food that Rover eats and what's good for Rover and what's not, they'll know I'm talking about dog food without me mentioning the word dog food as a phrase in one, in 2 words technically, but next to each other.
Interesting. And I've also heard a little bit more about this idea that search is now more conversational than ever. Can you tell me a little bit more about that?
When people are searching, they're asking questions and they're asking follow-up questions, and you can ask search almost like it's a virtual person, and you can have a conversation with it. And when you ask a question, before when we get a search result, in theory you're asking a question, you're typing something in, and if it's not what you're looking for, you would ask something else. Now, because of AI, you can ask something, and when it's not giving you what you want, you can explain what you don't like and what you're actually looking for, and it'll filter again and then show you what you ideally were looking for.
Yeah, it's more of a two-way conversation these days. And so when folks are working in this search capacity, you talked about backlinks, you talked about some of these other things. The content itself that they're creating for, like, through the website, through social, through all of these things, should that also be more conversational as well? Is there a bit of a shift if it's a professional brand for them to be more conversational?
It should. You need a think of things from a conversational lens. If you aren't, you're just going to miss out.
Yeah, absolutely. Because we think about, things like professional services or financial services where they used to be really formal. And, I think some of the leading brands are really starting to see shifts there where they're wanting to bring that expertise, the way you would talk to someone if you were at a bank or if you were at a store or if you were in any of these locations. How would you almost be interfacing with an employee? Okay.
People want things more personalized, even though the person you're talking to may be a machine.
Absolutely. That's very interesting. Something I've seen you mention as well, Neil, is this idea of, at NP Digital, you fix the leaky bucket, is what you said, right? So you kind of started as a search agency. Now you're into paid media, you're into social, you're into all of these different areas. How did you anticipate that? Was that through, talking to clients, finding out what their problems were? Was that through you looking at the market and seeing what was happening? What was your way of sort of going through that process of saying, this is a problem that we need to fix, and I think we have the right people to solve it?
So we definitely did look at the market, but the first thing was talking to our customers, because even if the market has certain problems, if you have, especially when we were starting off at NP Digital, we were much smaller. Your clients may be in a specific sector. Like a lot of our earlier clients were more B2B. Now we have a wide variety of everything. So you tend to start fixing leaky buckets for the type of customer you're servicing versus looking at the holistic market and being like, oh, this is what problems people have. Let's just fix all this stuff. Well, some of it in the early days was more targeted towards B2C or Amazon. And at that time, we didn't do tons of Amazon stuff. So we're like, that's not what people are coming to us for. So why work on fixing a leaky bucket when our customers don't have these problems? Yeah. Now, because we've expanded globally, but also service line and client type, we fix pretty much all types of problems because our clients face all types of issues.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that adaptability is really important, right? And I think in a lot of ways, you're someone who has anticipated those trends, but you also, like you said, you need the feedback from clients to say this is worth investing in, this is something that we want to be doing. Speaking of sort of anticipating trends, you're someone who has done founder-led content and founder-led content creation. I believe you were very ahead of the curve in that space, and that's something that, you invest a lot in. You're still showing up across NP Digital, daily often, to share value, to share advice, with sort of different folks who interact with your content. What's your kind of next big bet on that front? Are you going to continue investing there? Is there something that you're looking to do for sort of the next 10 years to help elevate yourself, but also the NP Digital brand?
Yeah, I would say we're really looking to help companies adapt to this new world where it's AI first, and the device types that people interact with are not just going to be google.com. It's going to be they're interacting through voice through their car, or whether it's their phone and talking, or whether it is through their television, or eventually fridges and all the other devices that have this technology integrated. Because when you're leveraging marketing, technology is going to be integrated into everything, right? How can you ensure that your customer, let's say if my customer is selling milk, when a fridge can start ordering food for you and detect what you're almost out of, how can you make sure that your customer's milk is going to be top of the list and it's being recommended?
Yeah, I love that. And that's such an expansive way of thinking. Like you said, the tech is integrated. In some places, it's sort of early stages. But seeing how quickly things have moved, even just in the search world in the last year, I love that you have this vision of how many different things are going to be moving and changing.
Yep.
And that we'll need to adapt to. So that's awesome. Okay, I'm going to give you like a couple of quick rapid fire questions for our last minute or so here. You travel a lot.
Yeah.
What's your go-to airport meal?
Whatever's for free in the lounge or on the plane.
Yeah.
I try not to spend the money if I don't have to.
Yeah, absolutely.
I know that sounds bad, but like it's hard to earn money. It's if I'm already going to get food for free and it was paid for by an organizer or whoever booked my flight, I'd rather save the money and give it to someone who needs it than just waste food or waste money.
Yeah, that goes to one of my other questions. I've seen you talk a lot about this idea of contentment. I don't think that's a common conversation among entrepreneurs. I think a lot of people are kind of gunning for the next thing and sort of
they always want
that.
more. Always
wanting more. So tell me, contentment, it's a theme for you. When was like the last time this week that you felt deeply content?
I felt content in many ways over life, but just I would say each and every single day. I wake up, I'm satisfied with how my life is. Yes, there's always problems in my life. People don't just go throughout life with never having roadblocks or issues or things they have to overcome. But at the same time, in the grand scheme of things, got a loving family, got a roof over our head, got food on the table. Kids are great, wife's great, don't really argue, things are peaceful at home, have a great relationship with my parents, my in-laws. Like, can't complain. We're all healthy. In the grand scheme of things, there's people in places like Asia and Africa where, and even places like Canada, there has to be in the United States, where there's some people without, food or shelter. There's people homeless who have it much worse than us. Like, in the grand scheme of things, our lives aren't bad.
Life's good. Yeah, absolutely. I love that energy. Like I said, I think it's just something folks don't always focus on because there's this grind and hustle in marketing and in lots of things in entrepreneurship. So I love that is the energy that you bring to your day to day. And finally, because this is the Canadian Marketing News podcast, what is your favorite thing about Canada?
Genuinely, it's the beauty of Canada. Like, when I go to different cities, whether it's Calgary or I'm going to Vancouver, it's just beautiful. Like, I was in Vancouver, I think 2 weeks ago, and I landed and I was like, this is just gorgeous. But I've been to Vancouver many times. I've been all over Canada, like Victoria, Toronto, Montreal, etc. I've never been to Banff. That's on my bucket list.
Oh my gosh, next time.
And it's just breathtaking. Like, I wish I just lived in a place like Banff from at least the pictures I've seen, and I would get to experience that every day. I know that's not reality. I'm not a citizen, so I can't, but one could ever hope one day I'm able to spend more time in places like Banff.
Amazing. Worth the trip for sure. Neil, thank you so much for being here today. We really appreciate it.
Thank you.
Yes. Amazing. Thanks for listening to Marketing News Canada. For more episodes and other great stories from Canadian marketers, visit marketingnewscanada.com. Thanks to our producers at Social Next Events and our editors at Social Launch Labs.